Good morning. This is the time and place for the zoning case hearing for June 21st, 2017. My name is Milka Toledo, and I will be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. We have two cases scheduled for today, and relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. Both cases pertain to the same business and address located at 811 East Colorado Street. The business name is Marquee Club and Restaurant. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker forms which have been provided by the front door and submitted to our planning assistant. I would like to also inform everyone that the official proceedings of the planning hearing officer hearings are recorded as part of the public record. Public notice. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which are mailed to property owners and tenants located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will proceed as follows. I'll read the description of the applicant or the application request, and in this case we have an application for a conditional use permit to continue the operation of a banquet hall at an existing 4,858 square foot full-service restaurant, Marquee, and an administrative use permit to continue the sale, service, and on-site consumption of alcoholic beverages at the same location, located again at 811 East Colorado Street in the C3 Commercial Service Zone, described as portions of lots 9, 10, and 11, Block 4, Glendale Orange Grove Tract. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case, give analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will be asked to come forward, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak, again clearly stating both name and address, within a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments, if desired, in response to testimonies given by preceding speakers within a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will be closed and the case will be taken under submission or decision may be made. Today's case, again, conditional use permit, PCUP 1701855, and also an administrative use permit. We are hearing these cases together. PAUP 1705927. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.42 and 30.49 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit and administrative use permit shall be granted if the 4 required findings are present. In this case, the conditional use permit findings as well as the administrative use permit findings are the same. If the findings present in the application and at the hearing meets the required findings, then the hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. I'd like to briefly go over some of the comments received by other departments before we go to the case planner to give us a brief overview of the case, an analysis that will be given, and also make a recommendation. So from the police department, they've noted, and I know the case planners will go over this as well, the Marquee Club Restaurant is located in Census Tract 3022.01, which allows for 3 on-site sales establishments. Currently, there are 27 on-sale licenses in this tract. Marquee Restaurant is one of the existing 27. Based on arrest, Part 1 crime statistics for Census Tract 3022.01, in 2016, there were 213 crimes above the citywide average of 194. Within the last calendar year, there were 3 calls for police service at this location. It seems like there was one that took place in February of 2016 related to music playing, and no report was taken. Another incident on July 25th of 2016. There was a party complaining of employees from the restaurant smoking and being loud in the parking lot. But there was no report taken. And the last call came in August 29th of 2016. Again, music coming from the location after 2 a.m. And the establishment was advised, and the music was turned off, and no report was taken as well. They do have suggested conditions. I will defer to the case planner to go over that in a little more detail. As far as integrated waste, they do not have comments. Building and safety. They do note that the floor plan shows an existing storage area of 128 square feet to be legalized. And there are 2 expired permits on file for the same purpose. So this needs to be addressed. Aside from that, they have standard conditions or comments and neighborhood services. There's a citation, again, for the storage room attached to the rear of the structure that was constructed without the required approvals or permits. So the remedy would be remove the storage room addition or obtain required approvals. And lastly, GWP standard comments conditions. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to have the case planner, Dennis Joe, to please go over the staff report, give analysis, and make a recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Toledo. Thank you, Ms. Toledo. Just to go over the location detail, the site is located at the corner, the northeast corner of East Colorado and Everett Street. It's a lot that's approximately 19,000 square feet, and it's currently developed with a 1-story commercial building that's approximately 4,000 square feet, developed in 1965. On site, there are 28 parking spaces. And also, as you mentioned, with the comments from neighborhood services and building, there is a 128 square foot storage, but I think in the floor plans, it shows it as like an office, but I'll go into that as far as a little bit more as part of my analysis. Once again, this application is a conditional use permit and an AUP. One is for the continued operation of a banquet hall, and the administrative use permit is for the continued alcoholic beverage sales at the restaurant and banquet hall. Going into the previous entitlements, in January 2010, the zoning administrator approved 3 entitlements, which one was the conditional use permit, which was to establish or actually allow the banquet hall use at an existing restaurant, and also a parking reduction permit for the parking spaces on site. When the code requires 60 parking spaces, the parking reduction permit allowed a total of 44 parking spaces to be on site, which 4 of them were single and accessible, and 40 of them were going to be tandem spaces. And the third entitlement, which was the parking use permit, was to allow the banquet hall to have or locate parking on the adjacent site across Everett Street, which is to the west, which is the car wash, which the address is 725 East Colorado. And at this site, after 5 p.m. during the banquet hall services, it was to provide the supplemental amount of parking spaces for off-street parking, which 14 of them were going to be single accessible and 34 of them were going to be tandem. On the exhibits on the board behind you at the 11 by 17, which is below the elevations, it shows the valet stacking and the circulation as far as what the valet services are supposed to be on the site for the parking use permit for on-site. And then on the bottom, it's going to be the circulation for the parking use permit for the parking stalls at the car wash at 725 East Colorado. The surrounding zones and uses, as you can see on the zoning map on the board, all along Colorado, it's in red. These are all C3 properties. It's a variety of retail, medical offices, one car wash, and the subject site, it's the full-service restaurant / banquet hall. To the north and abutting to the site is a R2250 moderate density zone, which is an existing multifamily residential use. Kind of quickly to go over my analysis and the findings for this proposal. The project, as requested, is consistent with the various elements of the general plan. In regards to land use, a banquet hall and alcoholic beverages services is allowed in the C3 zone, subject to the approval of this conditional use permit and AUP, which we're going to go into today, which we're going to further analyze. As far as a circulation element, Colorado Street is a major arterial as identified in the circulation element, which is suitable for this type of use. And in regards to the other elements, such as open space, recreation, housing element, these will not be impacted as this is a banquet hall. We're not adding additional density of units that can use the open space or recreation or add housing stock to the housing element or taking away housing stock. It does not involve those types of areas of the general plan. Second finding, the request will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, general welfare, or the environment. As I previously stated in the description of this site, the building was constructed in 1965. According to city records, alcoholic beverage services have been served at this location for the past 34 years since 1983, and banquet hall services at a restaurant about 25 years since 1992. And once again, up and down, the Colorado Street, it's developed with a variety of commercial uses, such as the retail, medical offices, personal services, and restaurants. So it would definitely not be detrimental as far as a land use perspective. The request will not conflict with adjacent uses or impede in normal development. For the past 8 years, by the previous entitlement, Marquee has operated the site with conditional use permit without major incident. Now, there are some incidents, as you mentioned, at the opening from the police department, but police department had mentioned that there were 3 separate calls within the last year. 2 of them, one was regarding noise, it was loud music, and the second one was about employees being in the parking lot. And then the third call for service was about smoking, it being a nuisance to the adjacent properties. But overall, the Glendale Police Department did not cite major concern regarding this proposal. Adequate public-private facilities, such as utility, landscaping, circulation measures, are provided on the site. Adequate parking is provided by the 2010 parking reduction permit and parking use permit, which I previously mentioned before about the off-site parking at the car wash and also the valet and stacking on site. If this application were to be approved for a banquet hall, it will be coupled and subject to the conditions of the previously approved parking reduction and parking use permit. There are no records of any parking-related incidents or impacts to the neighborhood. The application does not propose new floor area or changes to the building operations. As a result, the existing landscaping, parking spaces, circulation measures are adequate and already in place. The Glendale Police Department, just in regards to ABC licenses, there are 27 licenses on site. I think 3 was allowed. Marquee is already one of the existing 27, so the there is no impacts as far as the increase of concentration of ABC licenses. Glendale Police Department did not cite any concerns to the renewal to alcohol beverage services. Just to go into the comments we received from neighborhood services and building in regards to the 128 square foot unpermitted storage unit. I'm just going to quickly go over the board and just show where it is. On the floor plans, on the site plans, it's this notch here that's adjacent to the multifamily lot. So it's this notch right here, which is like kind of a side yard over here. On the floor plans, it calls an office and an existing. It might be a refrigerator, but also on the elevation, it says it's a storage room over here. I think in the previous CUP it was called a storage room, but our records indicate this area here is unpermitted. Back in 2011, the owner or someone had applied to legalize and get building permits for this. A building permit was issued, but it was never finalized. No further action was taken part of the applicant. So the applicant filed for a permit, but never acted upon it, never got an inspection or anything like that, or they just kind of let it sit.
So quick question, is the storage this one here, which would be this one here, or is it this one here, which this here? Because this is the main entrance, which would be here.
You know what? You're absolutely correct. I'm sorry. The orientation here, it says existing storage to be legalized. This is it right here. I'm sorry. I had it incorrect.
Right.
You're
so
correct.
If I flip this way.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Thank you.
So it is actually a storage, according to what they've noted.
That's correct. It's still supposed to be legalized.
Right.
And just kind of the final remarks of my presentation. There are no churches, libraries, or schools or hospitals within the immediate vicinity of 500 square feet of the area, so there's no impacts to those types of uses. And just overall, the applicant's requests are supportable based upon the facts. Staff's recommended conditions to you are placed with a recommendation of approval to ensure that there are no additional adversely, or actually that we would not have any adverse impacts to the businesses and residential uses. So this concludes staff's presentation, and if you have any questions, I'll be available.
Thank you, Mr. Joe. I'd like to call the applicant to come forward. I have one speaker card, and the applicant, Garo Nazarian. Garo, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Good morning. Garo Nazarian with Domus Design, 109 East Harvard Street, Suite 306 in Glendale, 91205. As the Dennis provided, all the presentation correctly, I will start this restaurant banquet hall was in operation since before of this recent, ordinance that it separated the use of the restaurant and the banquet hall. This business was in operation before this ordinance, and it's one of the grandfathered, businesses that they are operating banquet hall and restaurant. And it's in a C3 zone, and as you know, in the restaurant or even banquet halls, the use of the alcoholic beverages is a customary service, additional service to this banquet and restaurant businesses. And this business, it has been in operation for this last 30 for some years, which they operated, but recently that I heard 3 calls, police calls. Those are the minor things that we can take care of it. And regarding the storage issue, I was the person that I pulled the permit for that. And I don't know, maybe it happens, during all these years I'm in this business, I see a lot of people that they forget to call for the final. And the building permit, it's expired for sure because it was years ago that I pulled the building permit. I will take care of that issue. I will, it's needed, I will again prepare the plans to legalize that storage issue. And but even as you know, in the banquet hall businesses, the major issue, which is the parking, it applies on the sitting area. It's storage or offices is not required to be parked. So I don't see any problem to legalize that storage again. I will pull a building permit. and the use is consistent, and it's consistent with the general plan and the intent of the zoning code. And since this maybe 3-4 times we did renew this CUP and the AUP application, and again, because I'm very close with this business, I know even that residential units in the north side of the project, they are happy with this because these guys, they are giving services to the residential unit too. And there is no major changes. There is no changes in the floor plan or adding floor area. Nothing. It has been proposed for the smoking issue. I will take care of that issue too, because by the ordinance we can provide a small area for by the accordance with the zoning requirement ordinance, area far away from the entry doors or parking lot. I can take care of that too. If you have any additional questions, I will be more than happy.
Well, just to emphasize again, since you do have residential to the north, it's still a little concerning when you. I know that's only 3 calls, but still, we want to be sensitive to our neighbors, and we certainly want to be sensitive as well to the neighboring uses to the north, which is the residential. How can in this case, the operator be a little more proactive as it relates to mitigating any future incidents as it relates to being loud music or noise, or having any type of loitering outside that becomes a nuisance? So we want to be, again, proactive, and how can we address this issue? And how can you assure me that the operator will address this?
To this business, it has been in operation for years and years, because these business owners usually, most of the time, as far as I know, always he is in the business when it's operating to control all these issues, because they don't want to have any problem with the neighbors, with the police department, and they are willing to continue this business. But maybe these 2-3 times it happens during the years that because of the family matters or other engagements, he was absent from the business, so the employees, they violated. But I know the guy, he's very correct person. He wants to control everything. I will mention to him that it's an issue that could be hurt your CUP approval, and that is all that I can tell, because that 2-3 incidents in 30 years, it's almost nothing.
Right.
But I know that they have to be concerned about these residential units. I will do that.
If you can please relay that to the operator.
Yes, sure. I will.
And again, that goes back to just being a good neighbor and working with your neighbors. And we certainly appreciate that he's been there this long.
Yeah.
How about the recommended conditions, being that obviously you're the applicant and you're working with the operator? Have you and the operator been able to review these conditions, suggested conditions?
Just quickly right now. That the development shall be subject, that all necessary permits, that all necessary licenses, that the premises shall be maintained. Okay, the cleanliness, even always the site I saw clean. They are. Then expansion of the modification of course, all music, lighting. That is the condition number 7 of the conditional use permit for the music and lighting, which I will mention to operator to be very.
And these are general conditions,
yes,
so you've seen these
no speaker
repetitive.
System. I don't see any problem with this condition.
So number 19, just to point out, I'm looking at page 8 of the staff report, and I believe the conditions are almost mirrored, the CUP and the AUP, that both parking lots, again at 811 East Colorado Street and 725 East Colorado Street, shall be monitored at least one licensed security officer during hours of operation of an event. So that will continue.
This, when they have a banquet activity, Always there are
Okay,
security officers there.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
So
they
this-
monitored. Yeah.
Good.
It's already.
So I just want to
in
emphasize
place,
that's
yeah.
still in place. Number 20, again, that the unpermitted attached 128
I
square
talked
foot
about
storage.
that. I will take care of
obtain
that issue
building
because
permit.
it has been done. They didn't call for the final inspection.
Okay. So, again, you're okay with the suggested conditions and the hours of operation of the business I noted
Yes.
are in the staff report and they are not changing.
No, they are
Okay.
not changing anything.
So it sounds like you're in agreement with the suggested conditions.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
One question.
Sure.
Recently, I heard in the news that the ABC extended the hour of the operation of alcoholic beverages to the 4.
I'm not aware of that. Perhaps you can discuss that further with your case planner,
Okay.
and we could further look into it.
Actually, I'm not, it's not their intention to extend, but because, that the previous hours always being controlled by the ABC, the maximum hours of the serving alcoholic beverages, but they are extending to the 4 o'clock, 4 a.m. That's it. I don't have anything.
Well, thank you, Mr. Nazarian. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Thank you.
I don't see any other. I don't have any other speaker cards, and I don't see anyone else in the audience. Unless you have anything else to add, I'm going to close the public portion of the hearing. So, decision. What I'd like to do is I'm going to take the cases under submission. So after the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Appeals. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from Building and Safety Section Permit Services Center located on the same floor of this building. So with that, I will conclude the public hearing. This hearing is now officially closed. Thank you for coming. And it is 10:08 on June 21st, 2017. Thank you for coming.